Okay, this one is hopefully going to be quite a short one. And I just wanted to give a few pointers to, new real Catholics, because you're going to get arguments from all sorts of heretics and schismatics. I'm not too concerned with arguments from the Protestants because, they've got not a leg to stand on, and even if you know only the basics of Christianity, you should be able to bat that off. What I'm particularly more interested in is the so-called Nominal Catholics, or the fooled Novus Ordo Catholics, or the sometimes intentionally deceptive Novus Ordo fake Catholics. One of their arguments, and this often stems from ignorance. In particular, I think I mentioned in one of the last videos, I can't remember if it was the one before this one, possibly it was, that there's a boomer I know who keeps saying that, oh, you're a schismatic and, pseudo-deprivationism is not real and blah, blah, blah. These people are ignorant, arrogant, and wrong. That's the best case scenario. But even then, they're liars. This boomer in question, for example, we had a nice long argument yesterday or the day before, and it came to finally a satisfactory conclusion because, although it was all online, he'd been arguing that I'm the schismatic, and I said, no, I'm not the schismatic. You are, and you don't know canon law, and you don't understand the basics. I've written a blog post. There it is. Go read it. There's a video. The video that I did in video number 71 that I linked to on the notes. I didn't do that video, but it's very good at showing you exactly why Novus Ordo is Novus Ordo. And he just outright lied and said that, he's known all the stuff long before I was born. And I was like, yeah, you actually haven't read Canon Law of 1917. You actually haven't read the blog post. You've got nothing. All you've got is your shouty old man, I'm right because I'm a boomer, and I went to the moon on foot, both ways, with no shoes. It's just complete nonsense. To which he said, I read the canon law when you were still a child, in Africa. And I was like, no, you didn't. Go on then, make your argument. If you did, then what's preventing you from logically arguing the point? And he never has. And he said, oh, I did it before. I said, no, you never have. You've never made a logical argument against any of the things I said, just your shouty boomer. And that's where it comes from. So, but I harassed him enough that he kind of had to rise to the challenge. And then he said, right, I'm going to do it. And he took on this approach of the Socratic method of, asking questions that I had to answer like I was the student. And I thought, yeah, I'll play your game because I know exactly where this is going. And so he started to ask, does the canon law have authority? I said, yes, of course it does. Where does that authority come from? I said, well, the church. And where does the church's authority come from? Well, ultimately God. Well, but who specifically? I said, well, the bishops and the magisterium of the church, insofar as they're able to interpret God's will, because the church recognizes that that's what it's trying to do. Doesn't mean it always gets it right, but that's precisely what it's trying to do. To which he said, right, and only bishops have got the right to declare another bishop or a priest invalid. And I said, no, you're talking nonsense, absolute rubbish. You're referring to Canon of 1983, which is created by the same fake Catholics, by the same apostates, by the same Novus Orchians that created Vatican II. So, of course, the Canon of 1983 has got nothing to do with reality. That is a satanic document designed to destroy the original canon law. No, I've read all that stuff before. I said, no, you haven't, and you're lying. Now prove your point. So, what did he do? The boomer Googled in 5 minutes. There, Canon 192 or 193, it's canons 192 to 194 in the new, fake canon law, said that only a bishop can, only the magisterium of the church, only bishops can declare another bishop like invalid or whatever. I said, no, that's canon of 1983, you're lying and wrong, just like I said you would, that you only read Canon 1983, if you've read anything. And I don't believe you have. You just Googled it right now, and you fucked up, and you went and got the wrong Canon. Oh, well, I'm in a rush, and I'm trying to work, so I got the wrong document. Said, no, that's not what happened. You're Googling frantically, trying to find Canon from 1917 online, and you can't, unless you're willing to pay $35. It isn't online. Unless you pay $35 to see a digital version, or you actually buy the book. So he disappeared for an hour, and then he came back with an abridged version of the Canon Law of 1917 with commentary, which was a document that another guy had already tried to use to argue with me. So I recognized it immediately. I said, no, that's not the Canon Law of 1917. That's an abridged version. It's not the full document, and it's commentary on it. So you don't even have to read. You're wrong. And he was finally squashed. He just kept silent since then, because it's absolutely proven beyond a shadow of a doubt that he hasn't got a clue what he's talking about. But that's what these people will argue from. They will argue from their arrogance and their hurt feelings and their belief that, no, only the magisterium of the church can decide if somebody's invalid. Yeah, I agree. And guess who put together the Canon Law of 1917? The magisterium of the church. And the magisterium of the church has already made it a law in Canon 188, Part 4, that if you publicly defect from the Catholic faith, which you do, there's another canon that refers to it, 2,500 something, if I remember right, that if you, preach schismatic, heretic stuff, and you've been told that you're doing this, by the lay people, by other priests, by anybody, and you persist in doing it, after 6 months, you're declared, anathema. You're no longer representing the church. Now, 1965, which is when the Vatican II documents ended, happened many, many, many 6 months periods ago. All right? So, if you do not specifically and completely reject everything connected to Vatican II, you are a persistent heretic, which means you have publicly defected from the Catholic faith, and as such, you have zero authority to say anything about Catholicism. You are not Catholic. You're not Christian. You're not recognized by the Catholic Church as having anything to do with us. And that's simple. And it is simple and logical. Why would you have such a rule? Because, obviously, if somebody's preaching heresy, they cannot be a legitimate member of the church. And nobody needs to pronounce anything. That's the whole point of Canon 188. There needs to be no official recognition that he's a heretic. He automatically loses his spiritual office. End of. Which is, again, perfectly logical. Now, what do they do in the fake canon of 1983? In the fake canon of 1983, they actually, and let me just see if I can find it quickly, just because it's interesting how they pervert it. I don't know if I've saved it on this one. Let's see, Christianity. I might not have it here, but anyway, it's canons of the fake canons go from 192 to 194, and let me just quickly run down there. Let's just find it. It's quite interesting, so it's worth doing. Just bear with me a second. Right, so we have Canon 160. Right, here we go. So Canon 187. No, sorry, this is referring to Canon 194. This is the Canon of 1917. So no, I don't have it here. Sorry, my apologies. But actually, you can find it online. The Canon of, right, let me just see. Canon 1983. There we go. Code of Canon Law. Vatican Archives, right, let's see. No, that one is not there. Come on, I know it's here somewhere. Revising. Maybe Wikipedia has a link. Part 1. Catholic Encyclopedia. The canon of 1983, the fake canon of 1983 is actually online. I just can't seem to find it right now. Let's see. I'll just give it one more shot and then canon 1983 Vatican. Let's see. Here we go. The Code of Canon Law. Here we have it. Oh, it's not letting me go there. That's really interesting because I have seen this before. So, let's see if I just take out that. Oh, it's not. Oh, interesting. They have actually apparently blocked access to it. I don't know. That's weird. I had been on this website before, so well, maybe they're waking up to the fact that people are using their own. Anyway, the canon of 1983 is fake, and it doesn't. It basically tries to invalidate the canon of 1917 because the canon of 1917 is valid. So what the canon of 1983 tries to do, it tries to say, oh, it's really bad because it actually states that a priest, a cleric, becomes invalid by the law itself. So it has the same wording as the canon of 188, and it only has 3 points, not 8. But in 2 of those points, which includes, if you publicly defect from the Catholic faith, it then states, but in this case, the loss of office has to be officialized by other bishops of the church, which completely invalidates the whole point of the law itself doing it. And that is absolutely one of the main reasons why they rewrote the canon law of 1917, and they pretend that one of 1983 is valid. It's not. And it's a logical argument in time. If in 1917 the law was valid, it applied. If it applied, it meant that everybody that was a heretic, which by 1996 at the latest, everybody who did not reject Vatican II was, because it's now been over 6 months, and that's that. So, and there are priests, that's why the church still exists, with the guys that I got baptized with the guys in America that you've got the list of, places where they do the Latin Mass and so on. So, to anybody that tells you, oh, you don't have the authority, it's like, I don't need the authority. It's not my authority. It's the authority of the church. It's the authority of the magisterium of the Catholic Church that invalidates all these priests, all these clerics, all these bishops, including the popes. There is any cleric. It's not limited to priests. It's bishops too. And the pope's just another bishop. So that's that. There really isn't any other valid argument. So I wanted to try and keep it short. Sorry if I wasted some time trying to look for the actual canon law online, but I thought I could find it, but clearly not easy to find, apparently, although I had seen it. I had seen it just a couple of days ago when I went to look for it, and I know I've copied it on one of my other computers for the documentary I'm doing, but whatever, the Vatican seems to have locked access to it, which I find very interesting, because the same link that I used just a couple of days ago is not available now. So that's quite interesting. maybe they're starting to realize that people like me are using it. So that's interesting too. Anyway, it's in the fake canon, it's canons 192 to 194, and they're trying to do away with the original canon 188. You know, canon law is not for everybody. These are pretty technical arguments, but it's good for you to at least know the basics, because you will come across people that will try and tell you that you don't have the authority, including Protestants. You know, the arguments with Protestants were even hard, you know, they carried on even longer than they did with the Catholics. So it's quite interesting. And I just found something else, Canon Law Made Easy, which again says that it's again talking about Canon 188. So it's quite interesting how the Catholic Church seems to have hidden away their so-called new canon law. Yeah, you can access it here. New, apparently updated. Ah, wait, I found it. There we go. I had to go through another guy's website to get to it, but here it is. And it's the same link. That's really strange. So here's the fake canon. Canon 192. A person is removed from office either by a decree issued legitimately by competent authority without prejudice to rights possibly acquired by contract, or by the law itself according to the norm of Canon 194. So they're saying you can only be removed from office by the law itself according to Canon 194. You then go and read Canon 194, and Canon 194 says, the following are removed from an ecclesiastical office by the law itself. But now you don't have 8 points, you only have 3. 1. A person who has lost the clerical state. That's pretty ambiguous. How do you lose the clerical state? 2. A person who has publicly defected from the Catholic faith or from the communion of the Church. So that is the one that would be referring to Canon 188 in the original one. Or 3, a cleric who has attempted marriage even if only civilly. This is important because it means that point number 1, a person who has lost the clerical state, does not cover the marriage part. You can stop being a cleric if you try and get married, or if you are married. But they're obviously referring to some other nebulous thing. And I'm telling you that nebulous thing is not defined anywhere else. And this is how you know. Part 2 of Canon 194 is the removal mentioned in numbers 2 and 3. Now remember, 2 and 3 are a person who has publicly defected from the Catholic faith or from the communion of the Church, or a cleric who has attempted marriage, even if only civilly. So if you try to do one of these two things, then it can be enforced only if it is established by the declaration of a competent authority. So in other words, you're not removed from office by the law itself. Somebody actually then still has to officialize it. Who's that somebody going to be? Another one of the heretics just like yourself. And the only thing that will allow you to remove somebody from office by the law itself is point number 1, which is undefined and says, if a person has lost the clerical state. How does a person lose the clerical state? Right? By becoming a public heretic, by trying to get into marriage. But no. So now a priest can even get married, and he still has to be officially declared, invalid by the other Satanists that are all for it. It's absolutely ridiculous. So there you go. That's the fake new canon law. And its only intent is to destroy the real canon law. That's why they did it. But these things do move quite slowly, because even the Satanists have got, to fight. There were still some priests, there was some confusions, and they're not efficient. These are not efficient people. They have been successful, but I blame the Catholics for that. I blame the real Catholics for that, for sleeping at the wheel. I blame us. It's down to us to take it all back. So, don't go quietly into the night. That is not the Catholic way. And remember that the Crusades took back land from the Muslims for a couple of 100 years, and it was a handful of families that did it. They were wealthy families, this is true, but it was literally a handful of families and friends of those families who got roped into it, because like, no, we are the good guys, we're going to do this. We don't care if there's only 5 of us, we're going to do this. And that's the attitude you should have. So again, apologies if I went a little bit overboard looking for the details, but in this particular case, for the few geeks among us, it's important. And for the generic heretics, you can just blast them with the usual stuff, which is, Catholicism has created Christendom, Catholicism has created the scientific method, Catholicism has abolished slavery, Catholicism has Catholicized the world, and again, you shall know them by their fruits. So compare the fruits of Protestantism, which, what did they do? They introduced contraception via a Jewish guy who created the pill. They then introduced fault-free divorce. I mean, let us just, all the Protestants that say, oh, you guys don't follow sola scriptura. Well, Protestants, hey, it's in the Bible. Let that which God has joined together, no man put asunder, right? Divorce is not an option. And yet in every Protestant denomination, you've got it. You've got it. It's accepted. And even the Orthodox have it, right? So who's actually reading the Bible? Sure crap isn't the Protestants, but there you go. And keep in mind that the Code of Canon Law stuff, it's not like a soundbite. That's what the atheists dance. Like, they'll throw a little soundbite from, like, they'll quote one little line from the Bible completely out of context to try and get you to, like, oh, well, nah. Those guys don't even need to be answered. Just slap them down psychologically, mentally, emotionally, just blast them. Just say, you're a heretic. Your opinion doesn't count. You're ignorant. You don't understand the Bible. You don't understand Christianity. Who do you think you are to try and lecture me? You've got nothing. You've literally got nothing. You're too stupid to do maths. If you're an atheist, you're literally too dumb to do maths, basic maths, elementary level maths. You obviously don't understand, the powers thing. You don't understand the probabilities of the universe just being here by chance. And you clearly haven't got a clue about physics or chemistry or biology. None of the above. You're an ignorant person. You're a savage. You're basically someone who's got no education. That's what atheists are. They're people that have got no ability to do logical thought, no ability to do basic math, no understanding of basic physics, no understandings of the basics of biology. None. Literally none. And that's all you got to say to them. And they hate it. They hate it because they think they're so smart and superior, and they're not. They're dumb and uneducated. Really badly educated. So hit them where it hurts, just let them know that they're morons, and you don't argue with morons, because, like my Russian friends, don't wrestle with a pig. You'll get covered in mud, and the pig enjoys it. And on that happy note, I shall leave you to it.